Bettering your business takes working with the best. With the James Hardie Alliance, you gain access to leads, training, networking, and support from the #1 brand of siding in North America. Achieve new levels of success by joining the James Hardie Alliance today.
It's time for Michigan's newest sports talk show, Mitten Madness.
And here he goes. Defense win championship.
Michigan sports talk from here in Battle Creek. The latest stories, the biggest games, all across the Mitten State.
That's not something you play with.
Streaming live and on demand on the 95.3 WBCK app. Here are your hosts, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes.
Good morning on this Saturday morning over Independence Weekend, as Independence Day was yesterday. Hope you enjoyed your 4th of July, because I'll tell you, I surely did. But of course, y'all know what time it is. It's time for us to talk Michigan sports. I'm Mitten Madness right here on 95.3 WBCK. I am Da'Jzon Hughes. Once upon a time, I used to do this show with a man named Jacob Harrison. He has since moved on, leaving me to do this thing all solo. So you get to hear me ramble about Michigan sports, as I am mostly a Michigan fan, for an hour. And hopefully you agree with me. And if you don't, let me know using the chat feature in the WBCK app, and we'll be sure to try and reconcile things. Or you can just think I'm wrong, and by all means, that is okay with me. Once again, as always, catch you guys up with how I'm feeling. I'm feeling great. I had another great tournament weekend. Went 3-1 with my team. Didn't win a championship, but we have had a positive record at every tournament. That is something that this age group team has never done before. So I'm feeling confident in myself and my team as we have one more summer tournament to go. Not this weekend, but next weekend. Also, my sports teams, well, they're keeping me in there, all right? My favorite lacrosse team didn't do all that well at their homecoming, where they had 2 games in San Diego last week. Maybe they can bounce back after the All-Star break this weekend. But Michigan making huge moves. The Pistons making huge moves. So I'm all in favor for Michigan sports right now. We are going to talk about the Tigers. As we know, they're the best team in baseball at this very moment. So we're going to touch in on them, see what's been happening with them over the last week, see what's supposed to come up for them over the next week, and just keep talking about the success we hope to see from the Dirty Tigs over in Detroit, because it gets gritty, if y'all know what I'm saying. And we'll also be touching in on NBA free agency and how that has gone for our Detroit Pistons and even some of the other teams surrounding us and around the league. And we'll touch on the NCAA football recruiting trail, as once again, Michigan has been hot, picking up some big recruitments over the last week. We'll also touch in on Michigan State and maybe some other surrounding teams. And then before we get into our picks to end the show, we're going to touch on the WNBA. There's some exciting news for WNBA fans here in Michigan, exciting news for basketball fans in general. When we get into that third segment, I think many of you will be happy to hear the news that I have to share. But now that we're done with that extremely long intro, let's talk about the best team in baseball. It's the Detroit Tigers. Duh. We've been talking about them all year. So we're going to get in on our standings updates. And we got a new leader at the top of the American League East. The Toronto Blue Jays are 48-38. As they are tied with the New York Yankees for the top of that division. Coming in third are the Tampa Bay Rays, just a half game back of those two at 48-39. A tight race over in the AL East. The AL Central ain't nowhere near tight, ain't nowhere near close, and we know who's at the top. It's those Detroit Tigers at 54-33. The Minnesota Twins 41-45, 12 and a half games back. The Cleveland Guardians also 12 and a half games back at 40-44. The Kansas City Royals coming in fourth at 40-47, 14 games back. And those atrocious Chicago White Sox, 28-58, 25 and a half games back from our beloved Detroit Tigers. Looking at the AL West, Houston Astros 52-34, creeping extremely close to our Tigers. 7 games behind them in second. Seattle Mariners at 45-41. And those Texas Rangers 43-44, 9.5 games back from the Houston Astros, third in the AL West. And then we get on over to the National League, where we find out that there is one team that is sitting above the Detroit Tigers. They're over in the NL West. That's the Los Angeles Dodgers at 55-32. The San Diego Padres, 8.5 games back from them at 46-40. The San Francisco Giants, third in that division at 46-41, 9 games back from the Dodgers. The NL Central has the Cubs still sitting comfortably up top, 51-35. 3 games behind are the Brewers at 48-38, and coming in third in that division, St. Louis Cardinals, 5 games behind the Cubs at 47-41. Looking at the NL East, the Philadelphia Phillies, 51-36, sitting at the top of that division. Coming in second behind them, the New York Mets, 49-38, 2 games behind the Phils. And 11 games behind the Phillies are the Atlanta Braves at 39-46. When we look at the leagues overall, top 5 in the American League, the Tigers, the Astros, the Blue Jays, the Yankees, and the Tampa Bay Rays. In the NL, the Dodgers leading the NL, behind them the Cubs in second, the Phillies in third, the Mets in fourth, and the Brewers in fifth. Looking at the league overall, the Dodgers sit up top, 55-32, and just a game behind them are our Detroit Tigers, comfortably sitting in second. 2.5 games back from them in second are the Houston Astros. The Cubs coming in fourth at 3.5 games back from the Dodgers. The Astros actually are only a game and a half back of the Tigers, or 2.5 games back of the Dodgers. And then in fifth are the Phillies, 4 games back from the Dodgers. Looking at the wild card race, the Yankees currently have that top spot. The Rays are right behind them. The Mariners locking in the last spot for the American League. The Rangers and the Angels, 2.5 games back from the Mariners, looking to get in on that action. The Mets and the Brewers sitting atop and grabbing those first 2 spots. And then that third spot up for grabs as both the Padres and Cardinals are tied. And then you got the Giants just a half game back and the Cincinnati Reds a game and a half back. So that NL wildcard race is going to get muddy. Now that we know where everybody's standing, it's time to talk about our favorite team in baseball. It's the Detroit Tigers. Over the last week, they were coming off of the series win over the Athletics, 2-0 or 2-1 win in that series. They bounced back and get a 2-1 win against the Twins. They lost the first game 4-1, which had me shaking in my boots. But then they bounced back, get a Game 2 victory 10-5, and then they close out the series with a 3-0 win against the Twins. Then they're playing the Nationals in the midweek series. They had the first game postponed, so in a doubleheader, they won the first 11-2, then lost the second 9-4. They're going to be wrapping up that third game as I'm recording this on Thursday due to the holiday. Don't know the results of that, but I am going to imagine that they're going to come out on top. So taking a full look at the Tigers' schedule, coming up next for them is a series with the Cleveland Guardians over the holiday weekend. They start last night at 7:10 p.m. No clue who's going to be on the mound for the Tigers at the moment. Saccone is going to be on the mound for the Guardians. This is a road series, as this series will be played in Cleveland. Saturday, later today, 7:15 p.m. on Fox, Casey Mize is going to take on Allen. And then Sunday, tomorrow, the 6th, at 1:40 p.m., Scooble's going to be on the mound against Williams. Tigers going to look to revenge a 4-game series that they lost to the Cardinals earlier in the year, the Guardians earlier in the year. They lost the first game 7-0, the second game 3-1, the third game 7-5 in 10 innings, and then they were able to win the fourth and last game 5-0. So they're going to look to probably try and sweep this series to even things out 4-4 and just continue to stretch that lead that they have in the AL Central and try and get back atop of the MLB. They so far have been the first team to 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 wins. But now they're in a tight battle with the Dodgers to see who will be the first MLB team to 60 wins. They have a chance as they play the Tampa Bay Rays following the Cleveland Guardians. This is going to be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday series, a 6:40 p.m. first pitch on Monday and Tuesday, and then a 1:10 first pitch on Wednesday. Flaherty and Enns will get on the mound Monday and Tuesday undecided for the Tigers on the mound on Wednesday. Monday's game will be played on FS1. Boz will be on the mound for the Rays. Peapot will be on the mound Tuesday for the Rays, and Littell will be on the mound Wednesday for the Rays. And then the Tigers finish up the first half of the season before the All-Star break with the Seattle Mariners, a home series on the 11th, 12th, and 13th that we'll touch on again next week. First game is going to be on Apple TV at 7:10 p.m. Casey Mize will take on Kirby. And then Saturday, June 12th at 1:10 p.m., first pitch on MLB Network. Tariq Skubal going to touch the mound for the Tigers, undecided for the Mariners. And that last game, 1:40 p.m. on Sunday the 13th, undecided for both pitchers in those games. But the Tigers could realistically have 10 games left. If they were to win 5 of these games, 6 of these games, they're going to have 60 wins. They win 6 of these games, they have 60 wins before the All-Star break. Insane. And if they win 7 or 8, they're probably sitting in first place in the entire MLB and more than 60 wins before the All-Star break. And they're going to be in great shape. Obviously, you got a tough series coming up. I think the Seattle Mariners series is a good one for you because you're playing that at home. If you're able to escape this Washington series with another win, that's great for you. And in Tampa Bay, another home series for you at Comerica where you have been playing phenomenal baseball, puts you in good shape to be successful. And then the tough one will be, obviously, the Cleveland Guardians. Touch again quickly on our stat leaders. Riley Green leading all 3 batting statistics, 296 on the batting average, 21 in the home runs, and 69 on the RBIs. Looking at the pitching, it's Tariq Skubal down the line, 2.15 in the ERA, 10 wins, and he's got 138 strikeouts. That's the Tigers talk. We're going to be back after the break talking MLB free agency and college football recruiting. We got more Mitten Madness for you here on 95.3. Welcome back into Mitten Madness here on 95.3 WBCK. It's time for us to talk some NBA free agency before we get into some college football recruiting. Our Detroit Pistons have been busy after getting ousted in the first round by the New York Knicks in a 4-2 series, which was an exciting series to watch. The Pistons know they have all of the pieces to make it back to the playoffs. They know that they're a competitive team. They're now looking for the next pieces to advance in the playoffs, make it to the conference semifinals, make it to the conference finals, and hopefully to an NBA finals and championship. There's some work to be done, but the framework is there. It is all available for them. They just have to go out and make the right choices. Speaking of right choices, I think that's where we'll start first. Malik Beasley, 3-and-D specialist for the Detroit Pistons, almost led the league in three-point shots made last year, has gotten himself into a little bit of trouble. And, well, it's some gambling trouble. They think that he has been gambling on his own games. Well, not with the Detroit Pistons, but some of his time before and maybe even with the Detroit Pistons. So now he is under investigation. There is a lawsuit out, and it alleges that he has financial issues, which led to him gambling on his own games. And then you know how that kind of goes with possibly fixing scores to make sure that your bets hit. Things can get very sticky. So there's a good chance that Malik Beasley will not be a Detroit Piston this year. I don't know about you, but that makes me extremely sad. His energy was fantastic to have. He was always ready to pull the trigger, and he was knocking it down from the outside consistently. That's something this team is going to miss. Outside shooting has become a premium in the NBA and is something you need to be successful. But he's on the outside looking in for now, but don't think the Pistons were just going to let that be what it is. Absolutely not. Shams tells us that free agent guard Karis LeVert agreed to a 2-year, $29 million deal with the Detroit Pistons as he returns to the state of Michigan. Our Michigan Wolverine fans remember when Karis LeVert was donning the maize and blue over in the Chrysler Center, and man, was he a fantastic player to watch. He was very fun to see play. He wore number 3, and man, did he make it look good. He was amazing from the outside, a great defender, had the ability to drive, could set up his teammates. He's done well in the NBA. He's had stints with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Brooklyn Nets, where he's been contributing pieces. So I don't expect that to change once he gets back in the Mitten State and is playing over in Little Caesars Arena with the Detroit Pistons. I feel like he's going to slot right into this lineup, whether he's a starter or a backup. There are places for him to be and shine as a 3-and-D specialist that this team will obviously need, losing Malik Beasley. But Karis LeVert wasn't the only player that they went after that can light it up from the outside, and he isn't the only player from the state of, well, not from the state of Michigan, but that has played some ball in the state of Michigan that they're looking to bring here. This guy also donned the maize and blue. Duncan Robinson. We all remember when Duncan Robinson was at Michigan, torching it from the outside. You left him open, automatic 3-ball on the board. Hand down, you already know. Man down. You got to have your hand up at all times around Duncan Robinson. Couldn't give him even a lick of space, or it was going up, and it was most likely going through the hoop. He has made a name for himself in the NBA. He does have an NBA title. He was a contributing factor on that Miami Heat team that won that title, and he was lighting it up from the outside. In doing so, the man can shoot the ball, and he's going to be coming to Detroit to shoot the ball. He has familiarity with the state of Michigan after playing some time in Chrysler Center. He's reconnected with that teammate of his and Karis LeVert. This is going to be fun. They're going to light it up from the outside. They're going to help with the rebounding. They're going to play great defense. This could be an upgrade, although we are losing Malik Beasley. It could be something that is great for the team, as we have picked up 2 amazing options that could absolutely make a difference for the Detroit Pistons right away. In other free agency news, center/forward Paul Reed, as y'all know him, B-Ball Paul, has agreed to a 2-year, $11 million deal to return to the Pistons for the year. He did play a versatile role in the front court and was mostly one of those veterans that you need to help out the young guys. Duncan Robinson signed a 3-year, $48 million deal with the Pistons. He's looking to be here long-term and be a shooting option out in the wing for the Pistons. In other news, they are trading Simone Fontecchio to Miami for the Duncan Robinson. So it's a sign-and trade. I'm not a fan of losing Fontecchio. I thought Fontecchio was an amazing player for this team, a stretch 4 that this team really needed. He could bang with the big guys down low, grab rebounds, play aggressive defense. But then on the offensive end, he had just enough handle to get to the rim, could stretch the floor and be a shooter from the outside / the mid-range, and still had a post game. He was someone that this team could have definitely benefited from keeping around. But at the same time, they're going to need more of that outside shooting like we talked about. It is such a premium in the NBA that they couldn't pass on guys like Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. I'm just excited to see what this roster looks like once these pieces start to come together. Obviously, they have the draft piece from Tennessee that is going to come in and be another guard for this team. They're going to be getting Jaden Ivey back as well. So I think that is going to make this front or the backcourt absolutely stellar. And the only question will be, how will the front court answer and step up to the plate to make this team even better than it was last year? Now let's talk about some of the other NBA, and let's get, some ideas on how free agency has gone around the league. Looking at some things that have gone on, DeAndre Ayton has gone on over to the Lakers. He's signing a 2-year contract with that team out in L.A. The Hornets do get to keep Trey Mann, and they add Spencer Dinwiddie. 3-year deal for Trey Mann and just a 1-year for Dinwiddie. Miles Turner going to the Bucks on a 4-year, $107 million deal, and they also released Damian Lillard. So the Bucks are in an interesting situation as they look to get back to the NBA Finals. You already know the man Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to get the Supermax extension after winning the NBA title and the Finals MVP. He won the scoring title this year and was the MVP. The man deserved the Supermax extension. He's getting a 4-year deal that's going to be worth quite a bit of money. Gary Harris and Jericho Sims are both signing 2-year deals with the Bucks. Gershon Yabusele signing a 2-year, $12 million contract with the Knicks. And Tim Hardaway Jr. says goodbye to the Pistons in free agency. He heads on over to the Denver Nuggets on a 1-year deal, hoping to be a stretch shooter for them that will give some help to that man Jokic down low. The Raptors add Jacob Portal as well. Dennis Schroeder makes his way over to the Kings on a 3-year, $45 million deal as he leaves the Los Angeles Lakers. And Jaren Jackson Jr., former Michigan State Spartan, gets a massive extension for 5 years, $240 million deal to stay with the Memphis Grizzlies for an extended term. Now that we talked about free agency, it sounds like the Pistons are doing great. I like their picks, and I think that they're going to have a great opportunity to be successful moving forward. But let's get on over to the college football realm. Michigan has been very active in the recruiting trail of recent moments. They continue to add high-profile players to their board. So I'm going to get over to that tab here in just a moment. Here we are. Recently, they got 4-star number 10 defensive end Carter Meadows to commit. Andrew Clark, number 14 cornerback, is a 4-star. They got him to commit as well. Barry McWhorter, a commit on this list. And there's some other high-profile recruits that have been offered and have been on visits that are looking to get in on the action at Michigan. Andre Clark and Carter Meadows committed this past week. Zion Robinson on the 25th, Titan Davis on the 23rd. They also got Malachi Lee, a 6'6" ESPN 300 recruit out of Honolulu, to commit in the past week as well. Michigan's looking to load up again on both sides of the ball. 19 total commits. 10 of them are inside of the ESPN 300. 12 of them are 4-stars, and 6 of them are 3-stars. So only one of them not ranked in the star committed, and it's really just Micah Dresser, their kicker out of Hinsdale, Illinois, which to me isn't a huge deal. I think Michigan has continued to prove that they're going to be a team to be worried with when it comes to being not only recruiting but out on the field as well. We're going to touch in with another team in Michigan. It's the Michigan State Spartans. We're going to take a look at their recruits and what they've been able to get done of recent. They have 21 commits, 2 inside of the ESPN 300, 19 other commits. So they're active. They're busy. They got 2 4-stars and 19 3-stars. Going to see if they have any visits planned. None coming up of recent, and they haven't gotten anyone to commit since Tyron Wortham on the 22nd. So a little trouble in paradise over in Michigan State, but 21 commits is huge. They're looking to bring in guys that are ready to play and ready to make a difference. And there's a great chance that that happens with Jonathan Smith at the helm. The question is, will they be able to get some star talent to come in and play? A lot of these guys that they've offered to have already gone to other places. They still have a chance at Emmanuel Inacho, Tyler Atkinson, Caden Prothro, Jariah Edwards, Southside Moa, Chauncey Kennan, Bryce Perry Wright, and a few others, but it's getting tight, and it's going to be a questionable season for the Spartans. We're going to come back after the break, and we're going to talk all about the WNBA because I got some exciting news. But that's after the break when we're back with more Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK.
Detroit sports fans, Wolverines and Spartans alike, this is your sports show, Mitten Madness, with Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes on 95.3 WBCK.
Welcome back into Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. It's time for us to talk about the WNBA. And why would I be doing that in Michigan when we don't have a team here? Well, the WNBA is exciting, for one. And if you don't like the WNBA, I think that's a problem for you to figure out for yourself. I thoroughly enjoy watching the WNBA. There are great storylines there, and the on-floor talent is absolutely there. But speaking of on-floor, there's going to be a team coming back to Michigan. Yeah, you heard that right. A WNBA team is making its way back to the state of Michigan. The WNBA announced on Monday that it will be expanding to 18 teams by 2030, and those new franchises will be in Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia, which are joining the previously announced teams of Portland and Toronto, which begin their play next season. The Golden State Valkyries are currently playing their first season this year. The past few years obviously have been dramatic growth for the WNBA, but until this season, it had not expanded since 2008. Now they are looking to expand in multiple years in a row, and they say they're expanding now because they had interested potential ownership groups in various cities that have now become imminent. That had long been a target for the WNBA was obviously Sacramento and Golden State, so they were able to get that worked out, and then things started to really heat up. The 11-year deal that they agreed upon in 2024 for $2.2 billion for the TV rights has also helped the expansion of the league. The most important part of this expansion is they're coming to Detroit. The WNBA is coming back to Detroit. We are going to have women's professional basketball right here in the state of Michigan again. If you recall, the early 2000s, they were absolutely balling inside of the Palace. The Detroit Shock were one of the best teams in the WNBA. They were able to win, checks notes, 4 conference titles and 3, yeah, you heard that right, 3 WNBA titles in their short stint in Detroit before getting sent to Tulsa. And that current franchise is technically the Dallas Wings, which has one of the best young players in the NBA in Paige Beckers. So that team still is out there. But there's other exciting news about this Detroit team that's coming for the WNBA. The Detroit Shock trademark and all of those things, it ceased. It expired when that team was sold, right? They became the Tulsa Shock, and it expired shortly after. Well, guess who put in the paperwork for that patent and that trademark? Yeah, the WNBA did earlier this year in February of 2024. So they know that they want to bring the Detroit Shock back. I think they know what having a entity and a brand that was already here could do for the sport and for the league. WNBA, getting more fans is always exciting, but when you can make it rapid, like bringing back an old franchise that already has a fan base that has been dying for them to come back, it makes it so much easier. We remember the Shock wearing red, white, and blue, having the lightning bolts all over their jerseys. They had a couple black jerseys in their time as well. The Detroit Shock were phenomenal to watch. And like I said, 4 conference championships, 3 WNBA titles. All of that was won in the Palace. You're selling out. They have the highest WNBA attendance ever for a game at over 22,000. Ever. No WNBA game has pulled in more than the Detroit Shock did when they won their last title in Game 3 back in 2004. 22,000 people were inside of the Palace of Auburn Hills in Michigan to watch WNBA basketball because the Detroit Shock were that good. The Detroit Shock had that many fans. And, you guys know Jay Nivey? You know, that guard for the Detroit Pistons? His mom played for the Detroit Shock. That's why in one of his first games at Little Caesars Arena, he wore his mom's Detroit Shock jersey to the arena for the game. The symbolism between the Detroit Pistons and the Detroit Shock would come back immediately. They were brother and sister programs that encouraged each other, supported each other, and were there for the ups and downs. I don't know if you know this, but they both won titles in the same year. Yeah. That 2003-2004 season was immaculate in the city of Detroit because all winter, the Pistons were balling. And then they get to the summer and they start the summer off in the best way possible by winning the NBA Finals. And you know what happens just a few months later? The Detroit Shock come in, dominate the summer, and then they go on to win the NBA Finals. The city of Detroit was on an all-time high. People were everywhere celebrating those championship parades. Nothing like the OKC Thunder. No shot, no slight, but hey, y'all got to do better. The people were out and vibing all over Woodward Avenue because they just had two champions win titles in the same sport in a matter of months. Can you imagine if that happens again, what the city of Detroit would be like, especially with the Lions on top? The Detroit Tigers are back on top. The only team struggling right now is the Red Wings. Could you imagine if we were able to get multiple titles and multiple teams playing great seasons at once? The city of Detroit might burn down. The people might go absolutely insane for something that they haven't seen in so long. But that's what the WNBA provides. The Detroit Shock were the first team to shake up the quickly established powers in the WNBA in its first 6 seasons. They started 0-10 in 2002, but Bill Laimbeer quickly turned things around. They were 9-13 at the end of that 2002 draft, and then that's when things really picked up for them, when they were able to win some titles in the early 2000s. Here's a little layout on how expansion will go for these teams. Like the Valkyries, the upcoming expansion teams in Portland and Toronto will likely be an expansion draft in which Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia can select players from pre-existing teams in the WNBA. Each of those teams launching in different years. The expansion drafts could look similar to the Valkyries, where they were the only team selecting players, so they didn't have to prepare for what another team would do. Details for Portland and Toronto's expansion drafts have not been released, but they're likely taking turns, which will make that selection process interesting. There's only a matter of time to tell kind of when these teams will be competitive. I mean, you can look at the Golden State Valkyries, who are almost 500 this year, and they're not doing bad. They're competitive right away, but they are having players who already have experience playing in the WNBA. It's not a complete rookie team being thrown together. And it does matter which players you go to get and how they combine with each other, both skill, on the floor chemistry, off the floor chemistry, personality, and so much more. I think the most exciting part, as I've said 1,000 times before, is being able to play for an organization that has already existed before, an organization that has history, an organization that has fans by the boatload, an organization that a city is waiting to return so that they can show them the proper love that they deserve. Playing for an organization that is known for winning conference titles and WNBA titles, it makes you want to be better. It makes you want to be the next team to lift a banner in that arena. It makes you want to be the next person to don a championship ring while wearing that team's jersey. I'm just excited. 2030 is so far away. But, of course, it won't be 2030 for the Shock or whatever team it is that comes to Detroit. The team has not been named yet, but we are hoping that the Shock will be the team to return. The Pistons are expected, the Detroit team is expected to be in the WNBA by 2028. Looking forward to WNBA, and I hope that you are too. We're going to get ready for our picks, talk about last week, and get into this week when we come back from the break with more Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK.
95.3 WBCK.
Welcome back into Mitten Madness here on 95.3 WBCK. It's time for us to get into our picks for the week. Last week, picks went well for your boy again. Had another 4-2 week. I did have some unfortunate losses. The Fever absolutely did their thing to dominate the Lynx in the WNBA Commissioner's Cup. So I got that pick wrong. And I also Didn't see the Blue Jays sweeping the Yankees, so I got an L in that series as well. But 4-2 on the week gives me a total record of 29-13, sitting 16 games above 500. So I'm not too concerned about falling behind in this realm of things, but we'll find out soon. You can always use the chat feature in the Block app and let us know. You can always use the chat feature in the WBCK app and let us know how you did in this week's set of picks. But now that we've gotten through the mandatory catch-up of the last week, it's time to dive into this week's set of picks. And we are starting once again in the WNBA. The Seattle Storm are 10-7 on the year. They're 4-4 on the road. They're going to be traveling all the way across country to take on the New York Liberty inside of the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. A 1 p.m. game on Sunday the 6th. This game will be streamed on CBS. Skylar Diggins and Nneka Ogwumike doing their thing to lead the Storm, while Breanna Stewart and Natasha Cloud are doing their thing to lead the Liberty. As we know, Jonquel Jones is still out for the Liberty, which poses a huge threat for them, but ESPN has given them a 71.8% chance to win this game, just 28.2% for the Storm. Well, when you look at the records, 11-5 on the year for the Liberty, but they're 6-1 when playing at the Barclays Center, while the Seattle Storm do struggle, sitting at a perfect 500, 4-4 on the road. The Storm did win this first game, but that game was in Seattle, 89-79, so they lead the regular season series 1-0. Something of note here as well, the Storm are 3-5 in their last 5, or 3-2 in their last 5 games, just losses to the Indiana Fever and the Golden State Valkyries, while the Liberty in trouble, 1-4 in their last 5. They have losses to Phoenix, Seattle, Phoenix again, and Atlanta, but they did pick up a win over the Golden State Valkyries. As much as I want to pick the Seattle Storm because of the struggles of the New York Liberty, I picked against the Liberty a handful of times now in the last couple of sets of picks, and I think it's time that I get back on their side. 6-1 at home literally screams at you whether you have Jonquel Jones playing or not. I think that home court advantage, especially after the long travels over the holiday weekend for the Storm, is going to play into factor, and I'm going to grab the Liberty to win this game over the Storm, which is going to get us into our next WNBA game. Speaking of those Golden State Valkyries, they're going to be on the road 9-7 on the year. They're 2 games above 500 in their first year as an organization. That right there screams how good expansion is going to be in the WNBA, and there's a possibility that we see more of that with the Detroit team as they get back into the WNBA in 2028. But they're 2-4 on the road, are those Valkyries. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Dream having a season like no other. They're 11-6 on the year, 7-2 at the Gateway Center in College Park, Georgia. 7:30 p.m. game on Monday the 7th. They're giving the Dream a 77.5% chance to win this game, while just 22.5% for the Valkyries. Ryan Howard is a game-time decision for this game, but they got Jones grabbing 8 rebounds a game, and they got Alicia Gray pouring in 19.5 points. Miss Thornton leading the Valkyries with 15 points per game and 7 rebounds per game. And Miss Burton's averaging 5 assists per game to lead those Valkyries. This is the first time these two teams have seen each other. The Valkyries are 4-1 in their last 5 games. But those were all at home in Golden State. Over in San Francisco, totally changes things. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Dream are 3-2 in their last 5, looking to keep the momentum going and remain near the top of the league. They're second in the Eastern Conference, just a half game back from the Liberty. So they're going to look to win this game and stay close, and that's what I have having. That's what I have happening is the Dream winning yet another game, taking down the Golden State Valkyries and ending their recent realm of success and continuing to stay pace with the Liberty for that Eastern Conference first spot. That's going to send us on to the Diamond for some early week series. We're going to start with the second best team in baseball, the one that we're most excited to watch. It's our beloved Detroit Tigers. They're welcoming in the Tampa Bay Rays to Comerica Park for a 3-game series. The first is on Monday, a 6:40 first pitch as Shane Baz will hit the mound against Jack Flaherty. Baz is 8-3. Flaherty is 5-9. ERAs are very similar, 4.33 for Baz, 4.84 for Flaherty, as they're both above the 90 innings pitched mark on the year. 109 strikeouts to just 97 in favor of Flaherty. 37, 36 walks, Flaherty, Baz, respectively, and they both have given up 16 home runs. That game is going to be a barn burner, but the advantage slightly to the Tigers, 54.2% in comparison to 45.8% for the Rays, because this game is at Comerica Park. Game 2 of this series, Ryan Peapot will take on Dietrich Enns on the mound. The Tigers actually a 0.5% behind on winning this one. 50.5% for the Rays, 49.5% for our Tigers. Another 6:40 p.m. first pitch on Tuesday. Don't forget, the Tigers are 54-33 this year, 30-14 at home, while the Rays are 48-39 and just 20-14 on the road. A positive record, though, is a little concerning. Peapot 6-6 on the year, 3.34 ERA, 102 innings pitched, 85 hits, and just 101 strikeouts, 33 walks, 16 home runs given up. Ends 1-0 on the year, just 5 innings pitched. ERA hasn't been tracked yet. 1 hit, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, and no home runs given up. Looking at game 3 of this series, 42.3% says the Rays will win, 57.7% for our Tigers. A 1:10 first pitch in Comerica Park on Wednesday the 9th. Zach Littell will be on the mound for the Rays. He's 7-7, 3.61 ERA, 104 innings pitched, 99 hits, 71 strikeouts, 13 walks, but 23 homers that he's led up. The Tigers are undecided on who will step on the mound for game 3, but I think you know where I'm going here. I'm not even questioning it. Hopefully by the end of this series, the Tigers are once again the best team in baseball. But if you think I'm picking against that team that plays in Comerica Park, you're crazy. I'm taking the Gritty Tigs to win this series against the Tampa Bay Rays. They may even sweep it, but you didn't hear it here. That's going to get us into another series happening in the midweek with 2 teams that are playing very good baseball. Philadelphia Phillies traveling across country on the road to Oracle Park in San Francisco as they will take on the Giants. The Phillies are 51-36, 23-21 on the road. The Giants 46-41. They're 25-17 at home. Game 1 of this series, Christopher Sanchez will take on Landon Raup. Sanchez 7-2, Rupp 6-5, 2.68 ERA for Sanchez, 3.48 for Rupp. 100 innings pitched for Sanchez, just 85 for Rupp. 86 hits, 108 strikeouts, 28 walks, and 7 homers given up for Sanchez. 88 hits, 78 strikeouts, 38 walks, and 8 homers given up for Raup, giving a 51.8% chance for the Phillies to win game 1, 48.2% chance for the Giants. Things switch up in game 2 at Oracle Park as game 1 is a 9:45 first pitch. Game 2 is also a 9:45 first pitch. 36.9% chance for the Phillies to win, just a 63.1% chance for the Giants, though, as Mick Abel is going to step on the mound for the Phillies. Robbie Ray handling the pitching duties for the Giants. Mick Abel 2-2, 5.04 ERA, 25 innings pitched, 25 hits, 21 strikeouts, 9 walks, and 7 home runs given up. Ray, 8-3 on the year, 2.75 ERA, 98 innings pitched, 75 hits, 110 strikeouts, 38 walks, and 10 homers given up. In game 3, Jesus Luzardo will take on none other than former Tiger Justin Verlander. Luzardo, 7-4 on the year, 4.06 ERA, 95 innings pitched, 102 hits, 111 strikeouts, 32 walks, and 7 homers given up. Verlander, 0-5 on the year with a 4.26 ERA, 67 innings pitched, 69 hits, 55 strikeouts, 25 walks, and 9 homers given up. A 3:45 first pitch from Oracle Park. 49% chance for the Phillies, a 51% chance for the Giants. I'm not trusting Justin Verlander with this kind of pitching. Although the series is tied at 2-2, I'm going to take the Phillies to take a lead in this 3-game series and winning the season series overall. They'll probably win it 2-1, but that's just enough to remain on top of the other. That's going to get us into our last two picks of the week. These are both going down inside of the octagon. It's a UFC fight night as Derek Lewis and Taliesin Teixeira are the main event. But we're going to start with the co-main. Sitting at the welterweight on the men's side, Stephen Thompson, 17-8-1. He's 6 foot, 171 pounds, 42 years in age, 75-inch reach with an orthodox fighting stance. Meanwhile, he'll be fighting Gabriel Bonfim, 17-1. He's 6'1", 170 pounds, 27 years old, 72.5-inch reach, and orthodox in the fighting stance. When we look at the fighting odds, plus 300 on the line for Thompson as an underdog, negative 400 favorite for Bonfim. Total rounds over 2.5. So they're expecting this to go the distance at 115 favorite. Psych. It's expected to be maybe even under that 2.5, as this is also sitting at 115, even on the odds for the distance in this fight. But I'm going to go with not experience, but youth. 17-1. It's hard to beat a guy that's on a roll like that. And I think Bonfim continues. Looking at the main event, it's a heavyweight main event. Derek Lewis, 28-12, 6'3", 266 pounds, 40 years old, 79-inch reach with an orthodox fighting style. He'll be taking on Taliesin Teixeira, who's 6'7", 263 pounds, 25 years old, 83-inch reach, and orthodox in the fighting stance as well. Derek Lewis is plus 215 on those odds. A negative 265 favorite for Teixeira, and they're expecting this to go over 1.5 rounds. That's a negative 190 favorite, while the plus 145 for over a round and a half. So they're expecting this to be done quickly. I'm going to take Teixeira because 8-0 is scary. That gives me the Liberty, the Dream, the Tigers, the Phils, Teixeira, and Bonfim. I hope you enjoy your 4th of July weekend, as I'm going to as well. That's all we have for Mitten Madness here on 95.3 WBCK.
Join Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Miss the show or want to run it back? Stream Mitten Madness on demand on the WBCK app. Sponsored by AirwayCashForJunkCars.com.